All right, well, it looks like we are live, late and live. Hello, everyone. It's just me this time. The producer is taking some much deserved time off from wrangling herding cats over here. And by herding cats, I mean really just a herd of one, a singular. But it's not an easy job. So just me hanging out with you later than we normally do here on our live streams. But happy to be hanging out. It's going to be a little bit shorter than we normally do. But and sorry if I'm a little sweaty. I just got done a little bit while ago. Let's not say immediately playing some Beat Saber. So I haven't showered yet either. That's a gross thing to tell you, but Beat Saber's it's important. I would like to be playing Beat Saber is our, of course, VR Jedi rhythm game. My rhythm game, VR rhythm game, not rhythm game, VR workout of choice recently has not been Beat Saber. It's been Thrill of the Fight. I've talked about it before. An excellent boxing game, VR. Not a boxing guy. Never boxed. Never thought I'd enjoy it, but I recently started playing the pretty old title of Thrill of the Fight now and loving it, but being an old man and not in the habit of throwing punches, I blew out my pecs. I think we can call we'll just call them pecs. I know that's being a little generous to myself, but I was doing a mean left hook. This is my left hand. I was doing a mean left hook on some 7 foot tall Russian son of a bitch, and I put too much into it and twisted something, man. And I've gone back a couple of times, but it's always been a bad idea. So I'm back to the Beat Saber right now. It's more than anybody really wanted to know about VR workouts. I also play table tennis. Looks like we got some folks here in chat. Let's see. Sorry, I should have had this up. It's our buddy Sega. Sega Herman, what's up, Sega? Good to see you. Yeah, dog here, dog there, dogs everywhere up in this bitch. Good to see you, Sega. Thanks for being here, man. Let's go ahead and get this first bag going on our short late night edition stream here. And of course, we'll dedicate this one to our buddy Sega. Sega, remind me, what were we talking about the other day? I know we were talking about some kind of games, but I can't remember exactly what we were talking about. He did say, though, that I should play Ring Fit Adventure for the Switch. And Sega, I have played Ring Fit Adventure. I think it's actually really great. I played the shit out of it back in 2020. Holy crap, that was a while ago now. And I've played it intermittently since, but I put a ton of time. I really had myself a fit adventure. I honestly hope I hope Nintendo doesn't abandon it and we get some more Ring Fit Adventure in the future. I think it was a really neat idea, and for the idea of making a game where physical exercise determines. If you don't know, Ring Fit Adventure, should describe it, is a Switch exclusive made by Nintendo that comes with both a ring, which is the eponymous ring in the title, that you attach one of the Joy-Cons to. It's a ring that is ultra flexible, but it requires some effort to collapse it in and pull it out, so you can stretch it in and out. It's like a resistance band, but even more elaborate with a Joy-Con attached to it. It also comes with a little sleeve for your other Joy-Con that you put around your hip. It's a little rubber or elastic band that fits around your hip. Both of those things track your movement and stuff. So it's an RPG where you're moving up this world, moving along a board, and there are multiple levels. Each level involves running and fighting bad guys. And unlike normal games, instead of just selecting your attacks from a list, like in a normal turn-based game, you have to do these activities which correspond to attacks. It's like if you want to do, certain activities correspond to certain mana types, which you can, make different opposite types Pokemon style do extra damage, but it's like all these certain types are yoga moves, or if you want to do cardio, it does an extra kind of damage, and it's pretty elaborate. It's pretty great. The tracking works pretty well, and it's surprisingly fun. I'm all about that more positive gamification loop, where we actually use our lizard brains to want to make incremental progress on status bars that eventually cross over, and you get a little animated jingle, and it gives you some extra little numbers to say that you're a big boy now, and you've achieved something. We're all like, primed and addicted to want to do that, and so why not do it for good instead of ill, to sell us gem packs on Candy Crush? Why not use it to make us want to exercise a little more? I'm all about gamification and exercise. I think it's great. And Ring Fit Adventure takes the gamification and actually puts something kind of cool around it. I liked it a lot, and I hope Nintendo continues it at some point. It would be cool. Anyways, that's enough about Ring Fit Adventure, a 4-year-old Switch exercise game. Pretty neat. Better than Wii Fit, Nintendo's previous foray into exercise games, if less successful. Boy, that was an interesting time, wasn't it? The Wii Fit. What a craze. What a weird craze. I mean, the Wii writ large, although I'm pretty sure the Switch has now eclipsed the Wii sales, which is so mind-boggling. But all right, let's stop talking about Switch, reminiscing about Wii Fits. There was a national craze for basically a scale with 4 little pressure sensors on it that people went apeshit about. How weird, how quaint. What a simpler time. It was kind of fun though. I also played Wii Fit. I'm a sucker for gimmicks. I always say I love a good gimmick, and it was better in Ring Fit Adventure than Wii Fit. That's seriously, I'm done with Nintendo. I actually nominally came on. I was like, I'm going to play a game. I'm going to play Balatro, this game I've been talking about, this excellent roguelike poker builder. But here I am just ranting about old Nintendo exercise games. I got a bag. I don't think I've even done it once. Sega, this one's for you. And I do see our buddy King Yeti is here. Hey, King Yeti, how have you been, man? Good to see you. King Yeti also says, Tiger Woods PGA Tour was the last game I played 8 years ago, and it was on a Wii. King Yeti, if you ever I'm curious, are you a big golfer? Do you like golf? Is that why it was your last game? It's because golf's your thing, and it was the last time you were interested in video games, so it's what you happen to play, or was it just a coincidence? I asked because being a VR proselytizer, I feel like I should be compelled to say there's a lot of great golf software on VR, but those could be unrelated. Anyways, another fun opportunity to talk about. Let me actually get this bag. Sega, bringing even more nostalgia for that special Nintendo era of the Wii Fit, mentions good old Wii music. Recently on a live stream, we talked about Mr. Caffeine and this incredible Ubisoft E3 press conference disaster. These may have even been the same year, actually. What a wild time, too. If there is a better example of a press conference that went off the rails and was damaging to the brand than Mr. Caffeine from Ubisoft. The guy who doesn't know how to say Tom Clancy's name. It was Nintendo showing Wii Music for the first time. Oh boy, that is an example. That whole era of video games is really marked by or you can really point it as the era of hubris and people making terrible results, terrible bets because of earlier successes and thinking that now that they this is the era of the PlayStation 3 where Sony almost went from having the biggest video game console of all time to almost third place that generation. And Nintendo going from the GameCube, what was their biggest failure until the Wii U, to the Wii, their biggest success ever, and thinking, hey, you know what? We sold people on bowling, we sold people on baseball, then we sold them a scale. They loved it. You know what? We're gonna sell them on music. What is it gonna be? Doesn't really matter. We're just going to slop some shit together. You just waggle your thing around. Nobody really gives a fuck. We're going to make an embarrassing press conference. Some guy's going to pretend to play the drums. Nobody's going to have really thought about this at all. And you go from, being the industry's, if not darling, the one everybody is curious about, to being kind of a laughing stock almost overnight. And, and then the Wii U happens, and it's a dark time there for Nintendo after a brief period of light. So I was done with Nintendo, but, Wii Music. It was a fun opportunity to reminisce. Bag time. See what happens when we don't have our producer here, guys? You thought it couldn't get worse, but it was really the best it could be. I think I've done one of these so far. All right, shame on me. Here we go. And maybe I have to play Balatro to keep focused here. Get us on track. King Yeti says, I love listening to old metal albums redone in 8 and 16-bit Nintendo sound fonts. Man, that was, still is, but there's so many cool, deconstructions of both music and music and other games back into prior eras using nothing but the tech from, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm being dumb and high. I've listened to some of those projects before, and they're just, man, it's so clever and so incredible what people can do with the very rigid constraints of 16-bit media players, computers, period, and their sound limitations, which, especially the NES, really couldn't produce a lot of sounds, but people both making incredible music with those constraints to begin with, and then people years later looking at those constraints and saying, hey, I bet I can still take music that already exists and make a surprisingly tuneful version using those same constraints. It's neat stuff. And King Yeti, which one, what do you suggest people listen to out there in chat? If you could give one or two recommendations of metal albums, give us like the name of the album or the band or the person who made the remix. Let us know. I bet you some people out there would love to hear them. Chiptune bands, man. Chiptune bands were all the rage there for a while. King Yeti answers my earlier question when I was rambling. Says he got into Tiger Woods for the PS2, and his ex, then my ex loved to get high on uppers and play the Wii. That sounds like a great time. Doing some uppers to like speed or whatever, and then playing the Wii. That's probably a great use of amphetamines. Certainly more productive than a lot of other things, and less destructive. Man, Never thought about that before. If you're ever tweaking on your uppers, which my drug naming conventions are great. That's speed, right? That's meth. Are your uppers? I mean, I know there are others, but and you don't want to do anything. Just bust out the Wii. Get some motion controls in your life. It'll be okay. Weird digression. Mr. Lee Sensei. Hello, Mr. Lee Sensei. He says, that's a border collie, right? Yes. I didn't even notice he was there. That is a border collie. He's an old man now, Mr. Lee Sensei. 11, 10 and a half, something like that. He's an old man. It it kind of hurts the soul. We used to play Frisbee every day. He was a great, great Frisbee dog. And now, man, used from 5 times a week to once every other week being more than enough for the old guy. But Border Collies right now, extra popular as that great movie from last year, Anatomy of a Fall, the foreign language movie about a potential domestic murder or accident in the ensuing trial. It's in German and French. Anyways, that movie, nominated for a bunch of Oscars, has a border collie in it. His name was Snoop. Everybody loved the dog. He showed up to the Oscars and shit. So border collies so hot right now. They're having another Babe moment. But then again, border collies are never not hot because they're you see them on all kinds of packaging. I have two speculations as to why that might be. But if you look at a lot of marketing stuff that has dogs on it, there is an insane overrepresentation of border collies. I think for 2 reasons. One, the easiest and one that makes most sense is that they're so easy to train. It's just, if you want to quickly, easily shoot something that you need a dog to sit still or look in some stupid way, a border collie is going to be the path of least resistance. And 2, I think they're pretty just healthy looking dogs. They're a pretty robust looking dog breed. You don't see very many sickly looking border collies. So if you want to sell some pet food or whatever the case may be, and you just want a healthy looking dog, a border collie is the way to go. Interestingly, I didn't know this at the time that I made that theory, but there's this interesting thing that happened with border collies in the 90s where border collies tried to prevent the big, what do you call them, registration houses, dog certifiers, like the AKC, the American Kennel Club, and the what's the famous British one called, the one that has the big dog show. They actually tried to not let them get become an officially recognized breed that you could prance around at shows, because they were afraid that it would make them more valuable and people would breed them less to be working dogs, and to be more, the same thing that happens with all other show breeds eventually, is that they get bred for very specific, usually detrimental to their health qualities that people find aesthetically pleasing, and you make the poor dog breed more sickly at the benefit of making it look more pleasing or something. So I think they eventually did lose out, but they held off for a while, and I thought it was a noble goal that they're like, I don't want this dog to be something that people want because it is trendy, because they were concerned that the same thing that happened to French bulldogs and is also happening to golden retrievers right now, which is basically they more popular they get, generally the more sickly the breed, because people both inbreed them and also breed for, again, characteristics that we find aesthetically pleasing, but that usually almost always correlates to some kind of health condition for the poor animal. Anyways, that's a was a long, depressing answer to, yes, it's a border collie. His name's Squid. Probably shouldn't say that too loudly or he will show back up again. Thank you for the question, Mr. Lee Sensei, because you gave me an opportunity to talk about dogs, and specifically my dogs, and because I'm an asshole like that. Once we get through this bag, which I'm going to do very quickly, we'll give you that second bag in your honor, sir. King Eddie says, have I ever heard of a band called Little Stranger? I mean, the name certainly sounds familiar, but I don't know if I could tell you anything specific about them, or if even I know them as a band and not just some other association. Music is far from my forte, though, so I wouldn't take that as any sign that normal people would have name recognition for Little Stranger. Michael Stewart. Hello, Michael Stewart. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. How have you been? Sorry about that big, long rant about border collies before saying hello. King Eddie giving us those recommendations that I asked for about metal albums being remixed or recomposed, remade in chiptunes, 8 and 16-bit formats. He said, Mawin Swag, I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, is great channel for the metal albums. Giving us a channel recommendation. Thank you so much for that. If that sounds at all interesting to you, check them out. I bet King Yeti will point you in the right direction for sure. NS Dex asks, great question, NS Dex. He says, have you ever had a bad, intense high? No. I am very lucky in that regard. I will be the first to admit that I am very fortunate in that way. I can't say I've never overdone it. There are a couple of times in my life, I've only ever once really more or less did too much where it was like, oh shit, I kind of fell asleep the first time I did firecrackers, it was like, oh my God, whoops, too much. But that just meant sleeping on the couch for 4 hours while my recently picked up food sat on my coffee table, mostly uneaten. That was years and years and years ago, and firecrackers, if you don't know, are already vaped bud, which I had made with my non-volcano at the time. This was even before I had my volcano. And then mixed with like peanut butter and Nutella, baked, and then consumed. And I didn't know what I was doing the first time I went overboard, but it was the only time in my life where I would say that I was like, oh man, that was an amount where I was like, oh, I did too much and fell asleep. That was the worst outcome. And there have been times where I've briefly had like what I would say is maybe the very kind of touches of some kind of anxiety when doing an edible, but they usually pass super quickly and not nearly as intense as other people's experience, and not like, oh, not paranoid at all. If I've ever had it, it would be more like, oh shit, death is coming for us all. More existential, less paranoid. But that is super infrequent. I mean, really, and it's very, even when it has happened the 2 or 3 times maybe where I've had that experience, it was very fleeting. But noticeable because I almost never have an anxious reaction or never a paranoid one really with weed. But that is I'm very lucky in that regard. I know plenty of other people, both people who do weed frequently and never do weed because it makes them so paranoid. And it's really, it sucks. It's a terrible thing and a thing that, often gets missed when people talk about the benefits of weed. It really does affect some people very negatively, especially if they are prone to anxiety or paranoia anyways. Not necessarily, even though I know many people who are not paranoid or anxious that weed makes that happen to. But I'm fortunate. Not saying that that is a universal experience either, but I don't have. I'm lucky to not have had really any bad negative experiences, anything detrimental with weed, other than passing out one time, and which I cannot say for, if we want to be fair, for alcohol, which I don't really drink, but even when I did in my like early 20s, I wasn't drinking frequently, but I wouldn't categorize every time or even the majority of times that I drank as pleasant or pleasurable, all on sliding scales. But a long, elaborate answer to your great question. How about yourself, NS Dex, or anybody else out there in chat? Have you guys had similar experiences, or have you guys had any greening outs, or gone over, tipped over into hallucinations or anything even more trippy than that? One, I'm sorry that it happened, because I know not pleasant for those it does. Also, we'd love to hear about it, and feel free to share. I'll try to read it out loud. Sega says, speaking of uppers, playing LSD Dream Emulator while stoned is fun. Didn't know that there was an LSD Dream Emulator, and I imagine it would be fun while stoned. I can't quite begin to guess what LSD Dream Emulator would be, though. I guess I didn't know that LSD was an upper. I have done LSD. Probably, I've done LSD 2 or 3 times. No more than that, maybe 3 or 4 times. We've talked about this many times too. Doesn't affect me sort of nearly as much as other people, unfortunately, but I liked it the times I did it, even though I never really got to the point where I would say it was anywhere near tripping. I don't hallucinogenics. I've done mushrooms and LSD in my life, and I've talked about this on the past on Wheats. They don't seem to, and this is just true with a certain percentage of the population, where some people just don't seem to experience visual hallucinations, and I seem to be one of them. Now, that's not to say that I can't experience more profound things. I've done ketamine twice, I think, in my life, and it's not a hallucinogenic, I did experience more profound effects, including straight up like ego death, and it was incredible. I loved it a lot, but wasn't in any way mystical or spiritual. Just neat and totally novel. Too much answers for drug questions. Sega, where does one play LSD Dream Emulator? Is that an itch.io game, or can you find that one on Steam? Guessing you probably can't find it on the Switch. King Yeti answers my question that I had earlier about what the other dog club was, and he is right. It's the Westminster. I think it's the British equivalent. And he also mentions pugs as being one of the dog breeds that have been, really messed up due to selective breeding. Very true. You can look at, what these dog breeds, we have pictures of them. They're all old, and you can see what they looked like 100 years ago, and it's kind of sad. Dogs, though, what wonderful creatures. No creature alive is more a product of selective breeding. We talk about dogs all the time, but we never stop to just truly. It's amazing that a Chihuahua and a Great Dane are literally the same species. There is, theoretically they could breed with one another. Um, you would think like take a let's take some kind of amphibian. Let's take a frog, for example. There are going to be frogs to you and I that would look practically identical. Same size, same markings, same, habitat, same diet. For all intents and purposes, to our untrained eye, would look like the same exact species. But these frogs are not, and this is true across any animal, all the animal kingdoms. They're going to be things like this. But these two frogs are totally separate species, cannot breed together, even though to our untrained eye they look like they're the same thing. But we can look at their genome and say, oh, totally different species. These things can't make even though looking at them, they are as similar as any two dog breeds. Looks as similar as a Great Dane and a Great Dane, but you can take something as different looking as a Shar Pei and a Beagle and say, yeah, those are the exact same species, totally free to breed and continue that genetic lineage. It's insane how much within one, basically tiny narrow bandwidth of the DNA that we consider to be Canis familiaris, is that the dog breed name? Something like that. How much variation can be there? An insane amount, like to the naked eye, to what we can perceive with our eyeballs. But there's so much variation in it's this tiny little spectrum. Dogs. It's we've done a real number on that wolf, man. Okay, it is bag finishing time. My bad. It's time to stop. It looks like we've even have Matto saying, "What the fuck? This man yapping about." This dude is every plug's dream client. Yes. Matto's great calling me out. I tend to ramble. I rant. What was it? I'm talking about dog breeds. Thanks for keeping me honest. Mateos. Whoops. Let's get through this bag. My sincere apologies that I really wasted some of your evening, my dude. I hope you will forgive me. Unfortunately, we already have our next bag dedicated. Otherwise, we would dedicate it to you. But if you stick around, Matos, our new friend. Maybe get a third one. If you keep me in line like that. All right, let's finish this out. And then let's get that second bag for our good friend, Mr. Sensei. Well, thank you, King Yeti and Sega. He says, I'm CTFU. Ah ha ha ha. Well, forgive me for not knowing what that acronym means. What does CTFU mean from dictionary.com? Oh, it is an acronym for cracking the fuck up. Huh. Back in my day, we just LMFAO'd or RFOL'd. But I'll take CTFUing. Language is always changing. Let's not be content with a different four-letter acronym to signify our humor with a bit of vulgarity interspersed in there. Let's be expansive. Let's CTFU. So our buddy Mateos, the M-Man, our new friend. That's what we decided. Thanks for being here. I'm glad we could get you CTFU. Yum. Seriously finishing it. It's happening. Sega says LSD Dream Emulator was a journal based on someone's LSD dream trip. You can play it on PS1. It's Japanese only, and he played it emulated from the Dreamcast. Oh, played it on the Dreamcast emulated. God, the Dreamcast, what a system. Sega keeps revealing the I think of myself as like having some obscure video game knowledge and some like bona fides in that regard. But my boy Sega, man, he's got some deep cuts, and he was back there with his Bleemcast. Is that what it was called? Like the PS1 emulator on the Dreamcast. Wild West days. Sega, dumb as shit, basically forgetting to put copy protection on the Dreamcast. Probably killed it because any Joe Schmo could just basically burn a disc from Napster, and with any Dreamcast software on it, and you were good to go. A little bit harder than that, but there was like a PS1 emulator in that. It was crazy times. I did not know though that there was an LSD Dream emulator on the PS1 in Japan. I had no idea that was a piece of software. I will have to look that up, and if I ever make it out to Akihabara, I'll be sure to look for a copy in Super Potato. My dog did decide to come back and say hello. Hi, buddy. Good to see you. You can go take a nap somewhere. Somebody did notice you this time. They're like, "Is that a border collie?" I was like, "Yes." And then I talked for another 20 minutes after that. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Me? Could you believe that? He's a dumb son of a bitch. He's a good dog, though. All right. This is the last time I'm going to say I'm going to finish this bag and move on to the next one and just do it. Our new friend says, I don't know how this even showed up on my home. I don't even smoke. On your home? Am I just projected on some kind of wall? Are you just seeing me? Or are you talking about like you went to your YouTube app and you just saw like, hey, there's some schmuck over here. He's got this weird volcano looking, this weird cone? That's what we call that. Pyramid shaped looking thing. What's this all about? Thanks for indulging your curiosity, Mateos. That's a good thing. Instead of you could have watched a Joe Rogan clip, or you could have watched a clip of Ben Shapiro really laying into some poor college student. But you said, I'm gonna give this jackass a chance. What's this motherfucker about? And we're so glad you did, man. Thanks for stopping by. And are you watching on your TV? I'm curious. What does showed up in your home mean? I can't imagine I would have showed up on anybody's YouTube app if how would I have ever bubbled up unless you were interested in weed in some way? My new friend, I'm still gonna use that because I'm still just embarrassed. I don't know how to say your name. Maybe give weed a try though. I'm not, don't want to push it, but like, maybe it's not. You seem like you could use a little loosening up. Just a little bit of. You seem a little wound up, my friend, and maybe YouTube's trying to say, relax a little. Who knows? Algorithms are fickle. We'll never know. Google doesn't know themselves. Oh, it looks like he might have left, though. I just went on that whole thing for nothing. This was going to be a short stream, didn't I? And I am not making much progress. All right, here we go. Second 40th time saying it. Mr. Sensei Lee, if I'm still remembering that name correctly, if you're out there, thanks for being here. Sorry it took so long to get here, but we've arrived. Um, and we're going to endeavor to do better. Remember, in our streams recently, I've had our producer here, and she has done the Herculean effort of getting me to do. I mean, I did this in half the time earlier today, easily. So I'm on my own here. I think this might be the latest I've ever streamed. It's kind of nice. It's peaceful. It's a different vibe. That's why we call it After Dark Edition. Oh wait, let's really amp you know tune the vibe up a little bit. Let's get some more mood lighting going here. Vaporwave. Tyrell. Now that I don't have the sunlight, sort of. What's the verb? Coming in, arriving, entering through my windows, blaring right next to me. We can really see these fancy ass lights here. Stick with vaporwave. That looks pretty trippy. Second bag. I don't think we should do Balatro. I do have it set up. I was planning on doing it, but if I'm going to be honest, I'm a little embarrassed about how not good I am already. And there's little chance that my skills are going to be improved in this state. So instead of humiliating myself, let's hang out for another little bit. I got this bag to get through. We'll find something else to rant about, and we'll save Balatro for when we're feeling a little bit more fresh, cerebral. And maybe when our producer's here, who can make me appear not so bad at the game. All right. Let's work on this second bag. Can I keep saying? Here we go. Wonderful. Let's see. What I had some topics that I was going to bring up. Again, this is what the producer does so well. I was going to talk more about some games that I played recently, but a lot of them are. I talked about good old Final Fantasy 16 with my boy Grovel earlier. If the producer was there, I'm trying to think. There's a game. Oh, you know what I've not talked about yet, really, in any serious regard, and might as well have a fun way to rant and rave before we sign off for the evening here. And maybe Sega out there has played it, but let's talk a little bit about Tears of the Kingdom. Let's talk some Zelda, because I don't think I have gone on any effusive, gushing rants about it yet. I am in the camp that it is not only the best Zelda game ever made, but one of the finest video games of all time. I think I would already put it in that camp easily, a top 10 production. I was not been playing games my whole life, on every conceivable platform and genre. And one of my biggest blind spots, it wasn't a blind spot, because I played them all, but disconnects between myself and the large sort of critical and commercial consensus on must play titles, greatest of all time pieces of software were Zelda games. I have played almost all of them, literally from The Legend of Zelda, including on the NES to the Oracle of Ages and Season on the Game Boy Color. But I never finished a single one, and I usually beat things that I play, mostly because I would find puzzles in Zelda to be often so unintuitive. It feels weird because these are the things that people love about Zelda games. They love the puzzle design, but I would find them inscrutable frequently, and just like some dumb solution to things that I felt like I could never even conceptualize. Like I never would have arrived at this solution unless somebody told me. And I would come to that so frequently in Legend of Zelda games all the time. And so I'd get stuck somewhere, and eventually when I would come back to it, I'd be totally lost as to what I was supposed to do. Even if I could figure out this one puzzle, the games are usually so big and interconnected that if you kind of lose the thread, it's hopeless to get back to it. So every Zelda game, hence, or would eventually end in that same sort of pattern. That was until Breath of the Wild, which I played and beat and thought it was as incredible as everybody else, largely because the puzzles in that game are very different. They don't have these very specific, very the solutions are to any given puzzle in Breath of the Wild. Almost all of them can be solved several different ways and don't depend on some specific gimmick or hook or maybe context clue you missed or something. And I loved it. It made me a firm believer. And anyways, that's a lot of preamble. Tears of the Kingdom came out in May last year. One of the most anticipated games of all time. One of the biggest expectations probably ever for a game. And I think totally 100% exceeded anybody's, at least my wildest dreams. And it's even more insane knowing that it's the same map, the same world as the game before. But it is the greatest mechanic added to video games, I think, probably since something like the gravity gun in Half-Life 2. It's the game's God Hand mode, which is what allows you to take basically any two or more than two, any large configuration. I can't remember how many things you can assemble together, but you can take really any object on the map and smash it together with anything else. And the game has a very robust, competent physics system, and you can exploit and that, of course, you're not exploiting it. That's the intent, but it feels often like you are exploiting it. So you can, do something as simple as take two trees that have fallen over and glue them together to make a bridge, to walk over a chasm. To far, 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 far more elaborate things. And of course, they take that as the basis and then add all kinds of cool things onto it, like little devices that can be glued and attached to anything, like any other object, like trees and rocks and boulders. And you can stick them to things, and they do specific little actions. So you have little fans that you can make. Well, if you take a couple of logs and glue them side by side, and glue a fan and a sail, a piece of cloth, all together, you can make a raft. Not just a raft, you can glue a little steering wheel to it and make yourself a boat that you can pilot up and down all the game's waterways. Of course, that is still just scratching the surface because it has all of these fancy gizmos. It is a game where you always feel like you're cheating, but you also realize that that is the way it's meant to be played. It is the most inventive, joyous, incredible, just... They're wizards over there at Nintendo, and while we've seen sort of things like that before, they took it to a level that I don't think anybody ever considered, and I hope it is a mechanic that people that one everybody tries to rip off and reinvent and add to and elaborate on because it's so incredible in the game. It I imagine it would take a hell of a lot of work, but you can imagine it inspiring a lot of creativity, and I'd love to see it in everything. That's the God Hand and Tears of the Kingdom. If you haven't played it, it's amazing. Give it a shot. It's on the Switch. Everybody knows it. Anyways, Unreleased says, sending love from England. Well, welcome, good old Unreleased. Good to see you again. Says, hope life's treating you well. Yes, it is, my friend. I hope things are doing well with you across the pond there. Sorry about my big long Tears of the Kingdom rant. We were just riffing here tonight on this After Dark. Gotta get through this bag before we say goodnight. It's been a lot of fun doing a late night stream. Again, I think this is the latest I've ever done one. We did some weekend streams this past weekend, this Easter weekend too. The producer and I, which was also novel for us, had a lot of fun. We've got some 420 activities, and for the week approaching 420 in the works, we hope to share some of that soon. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna do a lot. If YouTube still, I remain in their good graces, the alphabet giveth and the alphabet taketh. I've been in this position several times before, so hopefully, I'm still here for 420, but we never really know. But we got our fingers crossed, and it should be fun. Let's have a lot to get through here. We'll take it nice. As always, if there's, what do you guys like to see on these streams? I'm always curious. Let me know now. If you're watching this later, leave a comment if you feel so inclined. Do you like just the ranting and raving, rifting? This is the second time I'm doing one of these today, so I'm a little higher than usual. Do you guys like it when we do play some games? Do you want something we used to do before I got stopped streaming the last time? Banned's not the right word. I just was removed from the partner program, which meant that I had you couldn't find the stream unless it doesn't matter. Let's not go there right now. But before I stopped streaming, before I had a Discord server. I still have the Discord server, but we were taking calls. We did it it was fun. I really enjoyed it, but we could totally do stuff like that again. If you guys have any fun ideas, I'd love to chat with people. It's so fun to talk to people on Discord or wherever. Any ideas, anything you want to see, let me know. We're amenable to anything, but feel free to share. And we are almost through our second and final bag of our After Dark stream here. Well, thank you. Uninspired says, Uninspired, welcome back, man. Hope all is well. Are you still in Santa Barbara right now? I can't remember what your trajectory was after your train trip. He says, this bowl goes out to you. Thanks, sir. Says, I enjoy hearing about your tastes and analysis of pop culture stuff. Well, and I love doing it. It's fun to talk about. And I appreciate you saying that. That's very, very kind of you. Sega says, play the LSD Dream emulator on stream, please. And that Zelda is awesome. I will have to search. It's so curious to see what this looks like, and any other details about it. Who made it? Who published it? I never heard of it. Sega is referring to a PS1, a Japanese-only PS1 release called LSD Dream Emulator. A thing I didn't know existed. And I gotta find, I mean, there are so many great PS1 emulators. I, of course, did the thing that is so common with the Steam Deck. I spent all that time when I first had it, a while ago now, downloading emulators, setting up emulators, making them, launch in Steam OS, all that fun stuff, and then never really doing it, which seems to be the thing you do with emulators, is you don't actually play the games, you just kind of tinker with the project continually. I mean, that's disparaging. But, I did play a good solid 10 minutes of Beavis and Butthead on the Super Nintendo on my Steam Deck. I tried to play The Punisher on Xbox, a game I've always wanted to play because I've heard it's great, but it's super hard to find, and I couldn't actually get that to work. So I'm sure I could figure out LSD Dream Emulator, PS1, easy peasy. And I don't know why I brought up the Steam Deck other than to say that emulators are real hot right now. Other than Yuzu, sorry guys, nuked from orbit by Nintendo's lawyers. Weird time for emulators. Everyone's a little scared that the Nintendo litigators are going to be gunning for them next, and everybody's getting a little gun shy, which is sad because it's going to mean software preservation, already a imperfect process, is going to get even worse. And what does software preservation mean anymore? We were talking about things like Warcraft, World of Warcraft Classic recently. But earlier in the stream, Grovel mentioned this shitty game called like Foam Stars or something on the PlayStation 5 that we were talking about. That's a game that is going to be shut down, certainly very soon. Like, it'll get nuked from orbit. What? Because it's like a multiplayer only. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a campaign that will still exist, but actually, the majority of video games that are being made right now probably will not be playable in 10 years. Not only will they not be playable, most of them won't even really exist in some form. I would say, the majority of games out now are probably being released are free-to-play things on mobile, and a lot of those are games that basically now have shelf lives that once they don't, or if they never do make a profit, they just remove them because there's no sense in keeping them around. They cost money to run the servers for things. If they're not a hit, it's not financially feasible. And so, like, that's a weird thing to think of, is like, we used to think of video games as these products that were concrete and existed at a time and could be returned to. And that is very quickly not becoming true anymore. It's interesting. It's interesting to think. You can be nostalgic for games going forward that you'll have no ability. It's not like, I have to bust out the Super Nintendo to play Super Mario RPG. It's just like, I loved Heroes of the Storm from Blizzard, but it's just like, it doesn't exist anymore. It's just gone. There's no way to ever, play it again. And that's just, that's a weird sort of concept, especially when you think again about the internet and things lasting forever. But in some ways it makes things, have an even shorter shelf life if those things require communities. Hi, thoughts. We are almost done with this bag. I am so sorry about all of those rants there. It looks like we got some new A new friend here, Cream420 underscore 94. Glad I got to say it. Also says, new timer, just watched your West Coast Cure cart review. Well, dope. Thanks for being here, Cream420. We're just about to sign off for the evening, but we've been streaming every day. We should be back tomorrow. I hope Mr. or Mrs. or whatever you prefer to be called, 42094. We get to hang out again with you in the future. Thanks for hanging out. They also mentioned that they have the Anbaric emulator device, and so he says, or she, sorry for again assuming, says, I'm good on emulating. I have seen those things listed many times. They look pretty cool. They're super affordable little emulating devices, little Alibaba specials, like depends from 50 to 200 bucks, depending on the level of sophistication you want that can emulate, probably up to PS1 stuff themselves. Pretty neat. It's really cool that, again, we were just talking about how now video games are much more ephemeral. They don't exist as long. So, yeah, the emulator is an interesting thing right now because most of this stuff won't exist to be emulated in the future. What it means to be a piece of software, it means you have to ask, like, well, when, instead of if you want to emulate Fortnite in the future. Let's say you could access some way. It's like, well, when do you want to play Fortnite? Do you want to play the Fortnite of 2019? Do you want to play the Fortnite of 2023? It's like a very different experience every couple of months. And it's just that fragmentary thing. It's weird. It's going to affect how people, remember and experience things. It's neat to think about. Very high right now. Well, thanks again, by the way, Cream420. Who says they got their emulator, that Anbaric, I think I'm saying that right, on the TikTok shop. Which I have seen reference to several places as a place to find some pretty good deals, as in addition to drop shipped, that's the term, Alibaba junk, and everything in between. Thanks for that suggestion, by the way. And if you're into emulating old games or whatever, check one out. They seem to be real cool, and not just on the TikTok shop. Here we go. We're going to finish this out and then say good night. So fun hanging out with everybody. All our old friends and new ones. Thanks for being here. I hope to do one of these later ones again. It's a different kind of vibe. All right. That is our bag, and that's going to be our stream. Thanks for hanging out, everybody, on our second stream today. We'll catch you all. I hope